I think what we'd like to do with all of our participants is just kind of understand, and we know obviously with your story is one that's it's been well known throughout Leicestershire, and obviously the experience you've had, but kind of in the here and now, especially with COVID and things that have happened, kind of who do you reach out to support your mental well-being and health, and kind of what things do you do to look after yourself?
I think I lean on my family a lot. Lean on my partner, but I also I take a lot of inspiration and positivity and energy from the Get Busy Living Centre where we are at the moment and our beneficiaries. I think we help each other out. We are a team, and obviously the message of Get Busy Living is resonates with a lot of people, and I think it's the sort of can-do attitude and make sure focus on what you can do rather than what you can't do in this life and in this lockdown as well, and with this virus about.
I really appreciate it. So, kind of going right back, kind of rewinding right back. Obviously, young professional elite athlete on an England pathway. Obviously, prior to the accident, again in terms of where you were in a elite setup, can you kind of recall any times when you were going through the pathway as a young rugby? And we obviously, it's well done. We know how much you lived and breathed and loved rugby, but there must have been times when you were going through that elite pathway where your mental well-being was tested, and kind of who did you connect with during that time, and who helped you in those processes?
My teammates, we had a good crack, and there was no time for being soft. You had to just make, just crack on with being a professional sportsman and being mentally tough. And Leicester Tigers were the elite team in Europe, and they were the top team in Europe when I was playing for them. We had a lot of amazing players like Martin Johnson and the ABC club and Ben Kay and Tom Croft and all of those guys to inspire us every day. So playing alongside those guys, they were mentally tough and just would never ever ask you to do anything that they wouldn't do themselves.
So kind of fast forward into where we are now in terms of the Get Busy Living Centre and the fantastic work you're doing there. How do you, and obviously the inspirational character you are, and you've just spoken about Martin and Ben and people like that, kind of leading by example, and I'm sure you're absolutely doing that for the beneficiaries of the centre. Can you share with us some kind of examples? And again, I don't want you to use names or put anyone on the spot, obviously, but in terms of kind of how the guys and the girls who've reached out to yourself in terms of the centre have shared their kind of mental well-being stories, and kind of have they come to you and asked for help, and how easy has that process been for them?
I think we very much naturally speak openly about our injuries, and I think we don't, as a group and a collective, we don't let our injuries define us. So everybody who comes to the centre, we don't say to what level of injury are you. We don't dwell on the injury. We dwell on we don't dwell on it, but what we talk about is how we can progress, and not just physically, but mentally. And we look forward, and we don't have unrealistic goals. We're not going to say, look, this time next year you're going to be walking again. We just say we're going to work with what you've got, and going to work with you and just improve you, and that might not be physically, it might just be mentally.
Really appreciate that. Really, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask this to everyone when we catch up with them on Friday, kind of guy to guy. Why are we so crap at speaking to each other about our feelings?
Because men, as how we are as blokes and as men, is we're meant to be the stronger, the stronger sort of sex, aren't we? That's what we are. We're meant to be the providers and the stronger sex, and that, to me, that's a load of bullshit. To be honest with you, because I think it's. I just think that's sort of inbuilt in us from a very young age, and I think we all are vulnerable, and we're all going through at the moment, obviously with COVID and the lockdown, we are going through a lot. I think we need to open up and just admit, like, I watch bloody Britain's Got Talent and I'm in bloody tears. So, before my injury, I'd never, ever admit that or open up like that.
I think that's it, isn't it? That we there's there, as you mentioned there quite rightly, there's this perception that we are supposed to be strong and we are supposed to be that person or that gender that nothing can touch, and we're resilient and we're hard. And there are certain times in life where we try to do that, and we sometimes have to do that, as you said, from an elite player pathway. You want to be the best of the best, and at the time in Europe you were, and that's what you all aspired to. But absolutely, I think what you say there is, you're absolutely correct, is that we need.
I also feel that I don't think it's as black and white as I'm tough or I'm not tough. Do you know what I mean? I think you have different sides to you, and I'm tough in my own way. What I live through on a day-to-day basis makes me tough, but with regards to all this sort of front, it doesn't. I think you should just be who you want to be, and just be, just tell people, who you are, and just open up, really.
When you obviously, Matt, one of the things you've done fantastically for raising awareness of sporting injury, and obviously making sure that it's about, okay, what next, not about what has happened, and the way you portray that and push that message and inspire that message is absolutely phenomenal. If you're happy to answer this, and please don't if you don't want to, is, have you ever found it hard to open up about what you're feeling?
Yeah, massively. I'm not ashamed of saying they do. In the last lockdown, I found that really, really hard. I find that really, really tricky because I think it was the unknown, and I felt like there was no progression in my life, and I was feeling sorry for myself, and eventually I had to say to myself, look, get on with it, crack on, stop being such a wuss, get on with it, it's I think it's really important to have plans and progression in your life, and I think I found that I felt quite stagnant in that spell during lockdown, and now I feel a sense of sort of coming to the centre every day and seeing beneficiaries. I'm the biggest beneficiary of the foundation, seeing them. I take so much energy and positivity from those guys, and it just makes life better. I personally feel, but that there is, there was times in the past where I struggled to sort of open up. I think, obviously, I've spoke about being at Tigers and having like a tough side, and yeah, there was times where, I'd be in bed when I was, a young lad, and I'd cry myself to sleep, in hospital or at home, and found that so tough that I didn't have anyone to speak to. And I remember a nurse coming round and said, "Do you want to speak to a counsellor or anything?" I was like, "No, no, 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 no." And in hindsight, I think I probably could have done with speaking to a counsellor. And I think, obviously, writing my book really did help me, and it was a cathartic process that I could get it down on paper and get it out of me and talk through the emotions that I was facing. I think for me, the hardest thing was thinking that I'd never ever get into a relationship again, and nobody wanted me. And that was probably the most difficult time and difficult thing for me. And self-worth, it was just really, really tricky. And I think writing my book was the best thing I could ever do. I think everybody's got a book within them. I'm not saying that every book will get published, but I think just to get it out of yourself and on paper is the most important thing.
That's great, man. Thanks so much for sharing that. I think kind of my next question would be then building on that, and I think that's a great bit of advice. Everyone's got a book in them, and getting that out on paper. I think that's a fantastic analogy of kind of that kind of initial kind of self-healing process, or working to help yourself with your own mental well-being and health. I think the other thing you said there about the opportunity to use some professional support, whether it be a counsellor, and I know obviously yours was a unique situation, but help is out there. And I think it's what would your kind of message be to men out there who are maybe, again, we all are affected differently by different situations, but having the opportunity to, when help's offered, kind of what would you say to our guys who are listening tonight?
If you feel like you need help, don't ever feel ashamed to take that help. It's not a sign of weakness. I actually think it's a strength to acknowledge that you need help and support, and that's an inner strength to take that support, really. So I would personally say don't ever think it's a weakness. Look at it as a strength to actually acknowledge that you need help.
So when you were playing, and again, we've got to appreciate that you were playing in an elite environment, but still, and I know this is a kind of a broad question, but in terms of looking at mental well-being and mental health, how did you feel when you were playing? What did playing do for you mentally? That as I say, yes, physically you were playing and playing the game of rugby, but what did it do for you mentally, and how did you feel when you were partaking in activity?
Oh, playing for Leicester Tigers at Welford Road, even, I wasn't playing for the first team, but I was playing for the second team. I was playing with my best mates and we were supporting each other. I didn't have much money or anything like that, but for me, the pride of wearing the stripes of Leicester Tigers was amazing, and one that I'll never ever forget, and nobody can ever take away from me. And I think a lot, it's a living the dream. So I didn't have any. There was no. I don't think I thought about things too in depth. I was 19, 20 years old. You don't when you're that age, you don't have a care in the world. Well, you shouldn't do. I personally feel if you're doing what you want to do and you're living the dream, then why should you have a care in the world? But yeah, I think a lot of the sort of frustrations in my life. I'm dyslexic. Struggled at school. Haven't really got any grades at all. So yeah, those frustrations were taken out on the field, and I felt like I could express myself on the field, and felt like I could, be good at something rather than being sort of downtrodden when I was a child and when I was at school. And so yeah, to do that was unbelievable, and I absolutely loved it. I relished the challenge, and obviously I was very nervous before the game, but once I got into the game, I could take those frustrations out and play the game that I loved, and play for Leicester Tigers at Welford Road. You know what? Why wouldn't I be happy?
I'm sure many of our kind of listeners and those who are watching these clips and will be involved in the evening show will relate to sport being almost an escapism and physical activity. It is that opportunity to clear when you've got so many thoughts going through your head, or activity to clear your mind and kind of almost reset, isn't it? Because you feel good after the game. And I think a point there, Matt, that you made is I was taking part in an activity with my mates, and just having obviously it was in an elite environment, but with your friends. Can you just expand on kind of the power of having that social group within sport and physical activity, and kind of what it meant to not just be playing the sport you loved and representing the team you absolutely loved, but also being able to partake in that activity with your friends as well?
Yeah, being in a team, and there's obviously lots of different personalities off the field, and some people you're going to get on better with than others. But yeah, once we got on the field, we were sort of united, and we felt like we could do anything. And I'd always been in environments. I'd never really played for a team that didn't achieve anything or lost every game. I always played a team that were winners, and there was no doubt in my mind that every game that I played, that we were going to win, and we were going to achieve. And to have that sort of belief and power was very, very special. And playing with, like I said, playing with your best mates and playing alongside those in a game that you love, there's no better feeling than that.
Just fast forward today, Matt. I recently saw the challenges you've been promoting through social media and things like that for the Get Busy Living. How does, obviously, in terms of physio and rehab and prehab and things like that, how does that connect with your mental health today and where you are?
Yeah, I think the getting physically involved and feeling a sense of progression is really, really important. But for me, it's not the be all and end all. I think the conversations that we have here, and for me, there's no better feeling than helping somebody else and improving themselves physically, but mentally, and supporting somebody else. For me, I take so much from that, and I absolutely love the work that we do here, and the sense of pride that I have from being involved with this organisation is massive for me, and I love it every day.
Brilliant. So Matt, just kind of we stop the recording and we finish up. If I could ask you kind of one final message to our participants, our observers, those who are going to look at the clips afterwards, and those who are going to take part in the session on Friday, in terms of mental well-being, what's kind of, and making sure that men become better at connecting with each other, what's your kind of number one message that you would promote to everyone in the audience tonight?
I would say find yourself a niche, find yourself a purpose, find what you like doing in life. If you're doing something, or I know that everybody has sort of stresses in their lives, and they have to pay the bills and things like that. But if you're not happy with what you're doing, then try and find what you are happy with. And if it's travel, or if it's doing a sport that you love, or being in a team environment, then get involved.